Chapter 61. Among the besieged Yen family cultivators, injuries immediately appeared. A Yen family cultivator at the 6th layer of Qi refinement was bisected by a fierce corpse at the waist, seeing one clan member after another die. Yen Jumping's eyes turned red with raging fury. Although infuriated, he was helpless. As the highest-ranking combatant of the Yen family present, he was entangled by Ghost 3 and couldn't spare a hand to rescue his kin. In just over a quarter of an hour, nearly 20 Yen family cultivators had perished. Most were at the mid-Qi refinement stage, with 3 late Qi refinement cultivators also falling. The remaining Yen family cultivators were mostly injured with severe depletion of spiritual power. Even Yen Jinping, the leader, had his leg slashed from behind during his duel with Ghost 3. The Yen family cultivators seemed on the brink of collapse, feeling they could be overrun by the wandering cultivators at any moment. Everyone, give it your all. Let's first take care of these few late Qi refinement stage cultivators together. The rest are insignificant. Seeing victory within reach, Ghost 3 spoke confidently. At that moment, from the distant horizon of the swamp, a figure appeared riding the wind on a flying sword. This was a Foundation establishment cultivator. The old man's face looked weathered, as if he could pass away at any moment. However, at this moment, an intimidating aura enveloped him, accompanied by a fierce anger directed towards the group of wandering cultivators below. This old man was Yen Tiangong, the patriarch of the Yen family. Without a word, 12 black poison spikes, each a foot long, shot forth like silent snakes hidden in the grass, aimed at their prey. Cunning and swift, the 12 poison spikes attacked separately, targeting 12 wandering cultivators. When Yen Tiangong appeared above the battlefield, everyone present felt his powerful aura. The wandering cultivators were immediately filled with dread. They dared to attack the Yen family only because they believed Ghost 3's claims that Yen Tiangong, the Yen family patriarch, was weak or already deceased. Otherwise, they would never have dared to entertain hostile thoughts towards the Yen family at this moment. Yen Tiangong did not look like the dying man described by Ghost 3. Instead, he appeared robust and vigorous with a flushed complexion. The wandering cultivators hesitated, ceasing their attacks and defensively preparing for the impending onslaught. The poison spikes were too fast. By the time they noticed them, the spikes were only a few yards away. Perhaps Yen Tiangong had indeed aged significantly, causing a severe decline in his abilities. Yet, attacking 12 late Qi refinement cultivators simultaneously proved challenging even for a Foundation establishment cultivator like him. His furious strike only managed to kill 3 wandering cultivators and severely wound 4 others. The remaining cultivators either sustained minor injuries or emerged unscathed from his assault, especially the 4 cultivators at the 9th layer of Qi refinement, who were only thrown back a few yards and seemed largely unharmed, at least on the surface. However, one mid-stage Qi refinement female cultivator, after taking the poison spike attack, flushed red with internal injuries. Summoning a shield before her, the shield had earlier blocked the poison spikes. She swiftly disappeared into the dense forest, attempting to flee. Other surviving wandering cultivators scattered like birds and beasts, none daring to confront Yen Tiangong, a Foundation establishment cultivator, in battle. The 4 severely wounded wandering cultivators were slower in their movements and were immediately killed by the Yen family cultivators, who seized the opportunity. The 12 poison spikes circled in the air, reorganized, and attacked once more. Splish, splish, splish. The speed of Qi refinement cultivators was ultimately no match for Foundation establishment cultivators. Several consecutive sounds of flesh being pierced echoed, including 3 wandering cultivators, including the female cultivator, who perished. Ghost 3 exerted all his strength and managed to block one of the poison spikes aimed directly at him. But another poison spike came from behind, aiming for his heart. When Ghost 3 noticed the poison spike behind him, it was too late for him to defend. He could only twist his waist in an attempt to dodge the poison spike. However, he was ultimately a bit slow. Though he managed to avoid a fatal blow, preserving his life, the poison spike swiftly passed through, severing a portion of his forearm. Ah! Ghost 3 winced in pain. He looked down at the severed arm where blood gushed out, but it wasn't normal crimson. Instead, it was black. It was evident he had been poisoned. The poison spikes were highly toxic. The flesh around his severed arm turned black, and the discoloration was spreading towards his shoulder with resolute decisiveness. Ghost 3 swiftly chopped at his shoulder where the severed arm was, instantly causing it to fall off. Fresh blood spurted out. But this time it was bright red. Ghost 3 dared not linger and swiftly flew towards the depths of the forest. Another late Chi refinement wandering cultivator was also struck by a poison spike, which pierced through his abdomen. The toxin swiftly spread through his body, and in moments, black lines covered half of his body. The wandering cultivator took out a pellet and swallowed it. It was unclear what type of pellet it was, but after ingesting it, the spread of the black lines halted, and there were even signs of them receding. This wandering cultivator also quickly rushed into the depths of the forest. Watching the two who had already fled into the forest, Yan Zhengping's eyes were filled with murderous intent, tinged with urgency. "Elder, why not pursue them? Will you just let them go like this?" Yan Zhengping exclaimed anxiously. Yan Tiangong shook his head, slowly controlling his descent and landing on the wreckage of the dismantled ship. His complexion suddenly turned pale, and his entire aura plummeted drastically. "Elder, what's wrong with you?" Yan Zhengping asked in a panicked tone. Ignoring Yan Zhengping's panic, Yan Tiangong was currently too weak to respond. Witnessing this scene, Yan Zhengping's face was filled with concern. He flew to Yan Tiangong's side and took out several pellets from his body, stuffing them into Yan Tiangong's mouth. At the same time, he mobilized the remaining spiritual power in his body, injecting it into Yan Tiangong's body to help him refine the pellets. Meanwhile, Yan Zhengping addressed the clan members. The elder is advanced in years, and his reckless use of spiritual power has made it difficult for his aged body to endure. With the strong enemy just retreating, everyone must remain vigilant. Yan Zhengping looked towards his third brother, Yan Gao, and said, "Take a team to pursue Ghost 3. Then he turned to a Yan family cultivator at the 8th layer of Qi refinement and said, "Yan Wu, take several late Qi refinement stage clan members and pursue the other one. Be sure to kill these two individuals. They know our Yan family's secrets. If they disclose these secrets, there will likely be no Yan family left in this world." End of the chapter. Chapter 62. Yan Gao and Yan Wu led their clansmen in pursuit of the wandering cultivators. Yan Zhengping, on the other hand, led his clansmen to set up defenses and guarded closely around Elder Yan Tiangong. Initially, Yan Zhengping wanted to personally pursue Ghost 3, however. Due to his recently injured leg and Elder Yan's severe condition requiring protection, he decided against chasing Ghost 3. At this moment, Guotao limped over. He too was heavily wounded from the recent battle but had managed to save his life. He said, "Master, it seems like Ji Yin has managed to escape." Yan Zhengping suddenly lifted his head, realizing he still needed to deal with Ji Yin, feeling somewhat annoyed. He knew the best option for the Yan family now was to swiftly relocate to the territory of the Nine Palaces sect. However, such a mass migration would undoubtedly attract the attention of the Corpse Demon sect. For now, they could only try to conceal the Yan family's betrayal from the Corpse Demon sect, buy time, and delay as much as possible for the Yan family's relocation. As for waiting for the final batch of high-grade rainbow grass to mature and gain greater benefits, Yan Zhengping dared not hope for such extravagance anymore. His priority now was to save as many clan members as possible. Yan Zhengping scanned Guotao's condition with his spiritual power. Guotao was severely injured and no longer suitable for pursuing Song Wen. His gaze then swept over the remaining clan members who still had fighting capability on the wreckage. Finally, his gaze fell on a young man with a 7th layer of Qi refinement. "Yan Feng, come here," Yan Zhengping said. Yan Feng had been on the ship earlier during the inventory of the rainbow grass. He was familiar with Song Wen and had decent strength, making him suitable for chasing after Song Wen, who was only at the 3rd layer of Qi refinement. Moreover, most of the Yan family's late Qi refinement stage cultivators had already left with Yan Gao and Yan Wu. Currently, only Yan Feng remained capable of pursuing Song Wen. After Yan Feng approached, Yan Zhengping instructed him, "Yan Feng, go and pursue Jin. You must kill him before he escapes the swamp." Yan Feng replied, "Yes, master. But the swamp is vast. Which direction should I pursue?" Yan Zhengping was momentarily uncertain. He hadn't paid attention to the direction Ji Yin fled. Beside him, Guotao spoke up, "During the battle, I happened to pay close attention to Ji Yin. He should have gone southwest." Yan Zhengping was surprised. Southwest. The southwest direction was the closest exit from the swamp, only about 200 miles away. "It seems we have underestimated Ji Yin," Yan Zhengping said regretfully. It had been over a quarter of an hour since Song Wen escaped. If Song Wen had used flight talismans continuously, He might have already fled 100 miles away from here. Yen Feng, take several clansmen and pursue him immediately. Meanwhile, on Song Wen's side, after escaping the battlefield, he had been heading southwest with the aid of flight talismans. His speed was fast. Almost every time he climbed trees and leaped, he could cover over 100 meters. If he exceeded this distance, his speed would noticeably decrease, slowing down his overall escape. An hour later, the flight talisman expired without hesitation. Song Wen activated another flight talisman. Without flight talismans in these swampy forests, his speed would drop by more than half. Half an hour later, Song Wen had used up 4 flight talismans and finally managed to exit the swamp. Upon stepping out of the swamp, Song Wen unexpectedly encountered someone. Yen Yiwen. Seeing Yen Yiwen appear ahead, Song Wen couldn't help but feel nervous. This woman had the strength of Qi Refinement 7th layer. In a direct confrontation, he was definitely no match for her, however. What was fortunate was that when Ghost 3 exposed the Yen family's collusion with the Nine Palaces sect, Yen Yiwen was not present. There was a good chance she did not know that Song Wen was already aware of the Yen family's betrayal of the corpse demon sect. Song Wen even speculated that Yen Yiwen might not even know about the Yen family's betrayal of the corpse demon sect at all. After all, she was still young and immature in character. It was very likely that the senior members of the Yen family had not informed her of such a secret. Thinking this, Song Wen forced himself to remain calm, staring firmly at her, not daring to make any rash moves. As Song Wen noticed Yen Yiwen also saw the bedraggled, fleeing figure of Song Wen. Her eyes were full of disdain, just as Song Wen had guessed. She was unaware of the Yen family's betrayal of the corpse demon sect. Nor did she know that the Yen family's members were currently pursuing Song Wen while practicing cultivation within the clan today. She received a transmission from the elder about criminals attacking the Yen family at that time. Yen Tiangong received an urgent message through a secret technique from Yen Jingping, knowing that Ghost 3 had gathered a group of quite capable wandering cultivators. Feeling old and severely weakened, Yen Tiangong was not confident in repelling them. To preserve the Yen family's heritage, he informed the clan's most talented member, Yen Yiwen, and let her leave alone. In case the Yen family was destroyed, it was also considered preserving a trace of bloodline for the Yen family, leaving a chance for a comeback. Although Yen Yiwen was reluctant and intended to stay with the Yen family, intimidated by the majesty of Yen Tiangong within the clan, she ultimately had to yield and chose to flee. Alone after she left the swamp area, she found a dense forest to hide in unexpectedly. She ran into the fleeing Song Wen. Yen Yiwen didn't think much about Song Wen's panicked appearance. She presumed that he was probably frightened by Ghost 3 and his group, which led him to flee hastily to the edge of the swamp area. Yen Yiwen glanced disdainfully at Song Wen a few times, then turned away and stopped paying attention to him. She held him in contempt, weak in strength and cowardly, truly. A small and weak person, however, she soon noticed that Song Wen's gaze was constantly fixed on her. Yen Yiwen was accustomed to the attention of the opposite sex. Not only was she outstanding in talent, but her appearance and figure were also exceptionally outstanding in daily life. Whether within the clan or when going out, she was always the focus of the opposite sex's attention. She didn't feel disgusted by the attention of the opposite sex. On the contrary, she was somewhat complacent. This was the best proof of her own charm, however. Today, she was worried about the safety of her clan members. Regarding Song Wen's attention, she did not feel pleased. Instead, she felt annoyed. She furrowed her brows, coldly rebuking him. Ji-in, if you dare to look again, I will gouge out your eyes. Don't think just because you're on a mission for the sect, I wouldn't dare to do anything to you. Facing Yen Yiwen's loud reprimand, Song Wen was initially stunned, but then secretly rejoiced. It seemed this foolish woman really knew nothing at all. However, how did she manage to exude such dislike and inexplicable superiority? Did she think he was interested in her? Was this the so-called little fairy in the cultivation world? Song Wen's thoughts were in turmoil, but his face showed no expression. He immediately appeared cautious and afraid. I dare not, I'll leave right away. Song Wen circumvented Yen Yiwen and rushed towards a distant mountain, quickly disappearing into the dense forest. It was only after Song Wen had left for a while that Yen Yiwen suddenly reacted. Oh dear, I should have asked about the battle situation. But this person is weak in strength. able to escape alive, he probably fled as soon as the battle started. He probably doesn't know the situation either, so asking would be pointless. Yen Yiwen muttered to herself. End of the chapter. Chapter 63. After confirming that Yen Yiwen did not pursue him, Song Wen's tense heart relaxed somewhat. The rapid jumping between trees had placed a great burden on his body, and now he felt somewhat weary. However, he knew now was not the time to rest. He had to get as far away from the swamp as possible and return to the sect as quickly as possible. He took out a haste talisman, slapped it on himself, and accelerated towards the direction of the sect. He chose not to use the flying talisman again. Firstly, outside the swamp, the trees in the mountains were no longer towering like before. There were many low bushes where flying too high would expose his trail. Secondly, he didn't have many flying talismans left and needed to conserve them. As a common talisman for chi refinement cultivators rushing on the road, the haste talisman provided a decent speed boost, almost doubling Song Wen's speed. Moreover, the haste talisman lasted for a long time. One talisman could speed him up for about an hour. Its only drawback was that, unlike the flying talisman, it couldn't allow cultivators to leap over valleys and rivers directly. Song Wen hurried through the forest for about an hour, running over 200 li of mountainous terrain. Just as the haste talisman's effectiveness was about to expire, he was preparing to stop and find a hidden cave to rest. His spiritual sense spread out, sensing several auras rapidly approaching from behind. One of the auras was very familiar, likely one of the Yen family members who had traveled with him on the large boat earlier in the morning. It looks like the Yen family defeated Ghost 3 and the others. Now they're coming to hunt me down. Song Wen thought anxiously. Immediately, he took out another haste talisman and slapped it on himself at the same time. He began to burn his essence blood. Using the blood escape technique, his running speed suddenly increased several times, quickly pulling away from the pursuers behind him. The pursuers behind were led by Yen Feng and consisted of Yen family members. They also used haste talismans, and their speed was faster than Song Wen's. So they caught up with him who had not dared to stop for a moment, seeing Song Wen's figure in the distance. Yen Feng couldn't help but feel pleased, saying, "My fellow clan brothers and sisters, Ji-in is just ahead. As long as we catch up and kill him, our family will surely reward us." Hearing this, the others also became spirited, and their speed increased further. However, they suddenly saw bursts of blood mist emanating from Song Wen's body, and then his speed increased dramatically, quickly widening the distance between them. Seeing this scene, they couldn't help but feel dumbfounded. Why did Song Wen's speed suddenly increase? Is this the speed that a chi refinement third-layer cultivator can have? Or perhaps Yen Feng, who had seen more, immediately recognized that Song Wen was using the blood escape technique of the corpse demon sect. It consumed essence blood at a rapid rate, and Song Wen couldn't maintain this speed for long. He said, "Don't worry, everyone, this kid is using the corpse demon sect's blood escape technique, which rapidly burns his essence blood. It's not a concern." Even so, as they watched Song Wen's figure getting farther and farther away and soon disappearing from sight, Yen Feng began to feel anxious. They absolutely could not let Song Wen escape from their hands. If he really managed to escape, the Yen family would suffer cruel slaughter from the corpse demon sect. He added, "I'll go chase after him first, you follow in that direction." After saying this, Yen Feng's speed increased significantly, and he chased after Song Wen alone in the direction he had fled. Yen Feng's cultivation was only one layer higher than the other 5, but for some reason, his speed was much faster, almost comparable to a chi refinement 8th layer cultivator. "All right, we'll come after you," said a Yen family cultivator. Yen Feng pursued at full speed, not slower than Song Wen's speed, barely keeping up with him. "Ji-in, give up. You can't escape from our Yen family's hands. Surrender, and I'll make it quick for you." Yen Feng shouted loudly. Song Wen paid no attention to this, still focused on rushing forward. In the blink of an eye, over a quarter of an hour passed, and the 5 chi refinement 5th layer Yen family cultivators were left far behind, completely out of sight. Watching Song Wen's figure intermittently appear and disappear ahead, Yen Feng gritted his teeth with frustration, muttering, "Damn it. Let's see how much essence blood you have left to burn." His haste talisman had already expired, so he reluctantly took out another one and slapped it on himself. Another quarter of an hour passed, and Song Wen's speed showed no signs of slowing down. Blood energy still swirled around him as if he had an endless supply of essence blood. behind him. Yan Feng couldn't help but feel incredulous. How could a Qi refinement third-layer cultivator have so much essence blood to burn? It defied all logic even for a body-refining cultivator with abundant essence blood. They should have exhausted their essence blood long ago, leading to depletion and death. As they continued the chase, Yan Feng became increasingly astonished. It seemed like Song truly had an inexhaustible supply of essence blood, maintaining his speed without any decline in this manner. The two of them pursued each other for nearly another hour. The 5 Yan family cultivators behind them had long since disappeared without a trace. Seeing that he couldn't shake off Yan Feng after such a long time, Song began to feel anxious. Long periods of rushing had greatly depleted his spiritual power, leaving him with less than 2 li remaining. If this goes on, I'll eventually be caught by Yan Feng due to insufficient spiritual power. Song at Qi refinement 5th layer in spiritual power cultivation was stronger than Yan Feng. At this moment, he could clearly sense Yan Feng's situation after experiencing a major battle earlier and now a prolonged pursuit. Yan Feng's condition was not good either, with at most 3 li of spiritual power left. Maybe I have a chance to kill him, Song thought to himself. Immediately, a seal appeared silently in his right palm, while he held a black sphere in his left hand. Then he began to retract the blood energy around him, pretending to be in a state of low essence blood. Seeing the scene from behind, Yan Feng couldn't help but feel pleased. Initially, he had pursued Song solely for the sake of his family, wanting to eliminate this huge threat to the family. However, upon witnessing the unusually abundant essence blood on Song Wen's body, he began to have ulterior motives. He wanted to intercept Song Wen, preferably capturing him alive, to obtain the secrets on Song Wen's body. Ji-in, surrender and come back to the Yan family with me. Perhaps the patriarch will spare your life, Yan Feng tempted. He feared that if Song Wen fought to the death, he wouldn't be able to stop him. If that happened, the secrets on Song Wen's body would likely disappear with his death. End of the chapter. Chapter 64. Ahead, Song Wen did not respond. Instead, his aura began to sharply decline, and the corpse energy swirling around him gradually weakened. Is his spiritual power giving out? Yan Feng felt a surge of joy in his heart. The more severe Ji Yin's strength declined, the greater the possibility of capturing him alive. Before he could celebrate, he sensed that something strange was happening to Ji Yin's aura. The originally dense corpse energy disappeared in an instant, replaced by a vigorous righteous aura. This feeling was extremely bizarre. It was as if the originally fierce butcher had suddenly transformed into a compassionate and merciful high monk. Yan Feng was not surprised but rather pleased. There must be a great secret on Ji Yin's body. As long as he captured Ji Yin, these secrets would belong to him. Just then, a brilliant divine might emanated from Ji Yin's body, filling the area with a cleansing power that dispelled all impurities. What is this thing? Yan Feng finally turned somber, and a chill rose from the depths of his heart. He hurriedly activated his poison technique. Waves of green mist steamed around him, gradually condensing into a green bronze bell that enveloped him. The green bronze bell gradually thickened, resembling a genuine ancient bronze bell. Before the green bronze bell could complete its transformation, a dazzling silver-white lightning suddenly appeared in the sky out of nowhere. Immediately following was a deafening thunderclap as the silver serpent streaked through the sky and struck Yan Feng directly. Boom! The silver serpent collided with the green bronze bell, creating a thunderous roar that was ear-shattering. The trees around Yan Feng violently swayed as if in an earthquake. Yan Feng, standing at the center of the attack, was instantly dyed silver-white, making it impossible to open his eyes. The lightning came and went in an instant. Within a 10-meter radius around Yan Feng, all the trees were blasted into powder and completely destroyed. The ground where Yan Feng stood was even stripped of a layer. The green bronze bell had vanished without a trace, and so had Yan Feng's entire left arm. Although severely injured, Yan Feng managed to survive, his face twisted with a fierce and somewhat insane expression. Good, very good. I never thought you could activate it. Only true cultivators can use thunder talismans. I must capture you, extract your soul, and slowly torture and refine you. I want to obtain all the secrets on your body. Song Wen paid no attention to Yan Feng's threatening words. Antagonists always talk too much. In Song Wen's heart, he wasn't entirely satisfied with the thunder talisman severely injuring Yan Feng in battle. This was a top-grade talisman, extremely rare in the thunder category, capable of severely injuring or even killing a late Qi refinement cultivator. Yet, it only managed to severely injure Yan Feng, who was only in the Qi refinement middle layer. Could it be that Senior Su sold me a defective talisman? But judging from that thunder just now, it doesn't seem like a defective product. In fact, he was also deeply impressed by the violent power of that thunder just now, the rapid speed and violent force, which were the true powers that cultivators should wield. He somewhat hoped that one day he could master the power of thunder and lightning himself, controlling thunder in one hand and commanding corpses in the other. The thought of both righteousness and evil cultivation was stimulating. Various chaotic thoughts flashed through Song Wen's mind, but his actions were not slow at all. Before Yen Feng could finish his words, a black sphere in Song Wen's left hand was thrown out. Boom. The black sphere exploded half a meter in front of Yen Feng, suddenly bursting open. The sudden explosion made Yen Feng's heart skip a beat. He thought Song Wen had activated another powerful thunder technique. In the end, it was all bark and no bite. He felt several small iron pieces embedding themselves into his body, but these iron pieces had minimal power, barely scratching his skin and causing no real harm. This was only because he had just been struck by a thunder talisman. Otherwise, these iron pieces wouldn't have even scratched his defenses, so it's just thunder pellets. They actually think they can use mortal weapons to attack a Qi Refinement 7th layer cultivator. Yen Feng sneered disdainfully. In his view, Song Wen was already at his wit's end. Yen Feng's eyes flashed like lightning, firmly locking onto Song Wen as he prepared to unleash a thunderous strike to take him down. However, at this moment, he suddenly felt a burning sensation emanating from those iron pieces, and this burning sensation continued to spread. In just a few breaths, his whole body turned bright red, as if he had been boiled like a shrimp. Ah! Yen Feng let out a series of agonizing screams. He could no longer stand and fell to the ground, curling up, his whole body trembling uncontrollably. Ah, Ji-in, you despicable scoundrel, you dare to use poison? As a cultivator skilled in toxic techniques, Yen Feng knew very well that he had been poisoned with an extremely vicious and rare poison, one that ordinary toxins couldn't affect. As a cultivator of toxic techniques, his resistance to poisons was much stronger than that of ordinary cultivators. Seeing Yen Feng's unbearable pain, with blood starting to seep from his 7 orifices, Song Wen finally relaxed a bit. He knew that in a direct confrontation, he was definitely not Yen Feng's match, so he had prepared to use thunder talismans and poison to kill Yen Feng from the start. However, the thunder talisman's power was weaker than he had expected. He had thought the thunder talisman could kill the opponent outright, but it turned out to only seriously injure Yen Feng. Fortunately, he had prepared a follow-up plan. He had applied the fire burns the sky to the thunder pellet. The unexpected effectiveness of the toxic fire burns the sky was somewhat beyond his expectations, and even Yen Feng, who practiced toxic techniques, struggled to resist it. Of course, this was also heavily influenced by Yen Feng already being seriously injured when poisoned. Knowing time was pressing, Song Wen didn't have time to waste on Yen Feng. He flipped his hands, and a fireball talisman appeared in each hand. Go! 2 fireballs, each the size of a human head, flew out simultaneously and crashed into Yen Feng's head. Half of Yen Feng's head was blown away instantly, and he immediately ceased breathing. Song Wen flew forward, one hand rummaging through Yen Feng's waist pouch, while the other pierced his chest. Having just used the blood escape technique had depleted some of his blood essence, so this was a timely replenishment. Just as Song Wen grabbed the waist pouch, his spiritual sense sensed someone approaching. It was several Qi Refinement 5th layer cultivators from Yen Feng's clan. So fast, these ghosts are persistent. Song Wen had no choice but to abandon devouring Yen Feng's blood essence, turn around, and leave. However, as he turned, more than 20 grayish pellets silently fell around Yen Feng's corpse. Soon, Song Wen's figure disappeared into the dense forest. The 5 who arrived late heard the commotion from the previous battle between the two. Initially, they thought Yen Feng had won, but upon arriving at the scene, they only found Yen Feng's broken corpse. How is this possible? Yen Feng is a Qi Refinement 7th layer cultivator. How could he lose to someone only at Qi Refinement 3rd layer, Ji-in? The 5 surrounded Yen Feng's corpse, their voices filled with disbelief. What should we do now? Ji-in could kill Yen Feng. Even if the 5 of us join forces, we might not be able to handle him, one of them said. The 5 stood around Yen Feng's corpse, momentarily silent. End of the chapter. Chapter 65. All 5 could sense that Yen Feng still retained the power of thunder on his body. While Ji-in was obviously a practitioner of demonic arts, it's widely known that practitioners of demonic arts cannot wield the power of heavenly thunder. In other words, Ji-in killing Yen Feng wasn't through his own strength but with the aid of something external. Ji-in's ability to defeat Yen Feng with thunder suggests he used some special treasure. Such special treasures are usually limited in use and can't be used indefinitely, otherwise Ji-in wouldn't have fled for so long from them. Therefore, if the 5 of them were to besiege Ji-in regardless of the cost, there was a good chance they could kill him, but it was certain someone would die in the process. They had initially thought chasing Ji-in would be easy, but now it might lead to death, making them hesitant to proceed. Ji-in must die. If he lives, he'll bring back news of our betrayal of the Yen family to the corpse demon sect, leaving no one in the Yen family alive. After a brief silence, one person spoke up. The other 4 also snapped out of their daze. Yes, Ji-in must die. If he doesn't, the entire Yen family will perish. Let's take Yen Feng's body and continue pursuing Ji-in after killing Yen Feng. Ji-in must have paid a price and likely won't get far. All right. A man in gray crouched down, his hand touching Yen Feng's body, preparing to put it into a storage pouch. Suddenly, several gray insects flew up from Yen Feng's body and pounced on his face. They were too close, and the insects were lightning fast. The man in gray had no mental defenses and didn't expect any danger lurking on Yen Feng's body before he could react. The insects had already pounced on his face, then these insects burrowed into his nostrils and straight into his brain. In shock, the man in gray instinctively jumped up, shouting, "Not good, it's an ambush." Things happened too quickly and the other 4 hadn't figured out what was going on, asking in confusion, "Number 5, what's wrong?" "Something's burrowed into my brain." The man in gray replied fearfully. He could sense that there were 5 insects crawling through the cavities in his brain towards his marrow, but he didn't know what to do next. How could he force these bugs out without damaging his brain? "What exactly is it?" one person asked with concern. "Insects." "Insects?" someone exclaimed anxiously. "Since they're just insects, can't you use spiritual power to force them out?" "I can't force them out." The man in gray shook his head. Obviously, he had already tried. These insects were powerful. He had used all his spiritual power to press them, only slowing their progress but unable to completely detain them, let alone force them out of his body. Ah! The man in gray suddenly clutched his head in agony, screaming in pain and despair. Hearing the man in gray's miserable cries, the other 4 shivered in fear. Someone was about to step forward to check on the man in gray when another person exclaimed in terror, "It's likely goo insects." Upon hearing this, the person who wanted to help immediately stepped back, and all 4 retreated 2 steps. "Goo insects." The 4 of them looked at the gray-clothed man writhing on the ground in disbelief, unable to believe what they were hearing. How could an outer disciple of the corpse demon sect at the 3rd level of Qi cultivation breed goo insects? Could it be the disciple of some powerful figure? Just as the 4 were unsure how to handle the situation, suddenly one person felt a sharp pain in the vulnerable part of his thigh, as if someone had fiercely stabbed a steel nail into his egg. He instinctively wanted to slap it, but hesitated when he realized how fragile that area was. Then he felt a stabbing pain at his Shinkei point as a goo insect crawled in through his navel and into his abdomen. The same happened to the other 3. They were all attacked at their vulnerable points by the elusive goo insects. For a moment, cries of agony filled the air. Although the black-bellied goo insects were small, their cultivation was solid at the 4th level of Qi cultivation, having penetrated the bodies of the cultivators. Their attacks were too much for the physical bodies of cultivators at the 5th level of Qi cultivation to withstand. Wherever the black-bellied goo insects attacked, flesh and blood turned into a mess. Even the hardest human bones shattered at their touch. After a moment, the cries of agony stopped. All 5 of them fell silent. At this moment, Song Wen's figure slowly emerged from the dense forest. In fact, he hadn't gone far at all, hiding in the dense forest all along. Using his keen spiritual power to observe the movements of the 5 and controlling the black-bellied goo insects to attack them, his spiritual power was considerably stronger than that of the 5, covering a much wider area. This allowed him to monitor the 5 from the dense forest, without them noticing him. Once he spotted the 5, Songwen prepared to ambush them using the goo insects. He had hidden the black-bellied goo insects in the soil around Yen Feng's body, masking their presence with the residual thunderous power. Coupled with their natural ability to conceal their aura, the 5 had completely failed to detect the black-bellied goo insects, leading to a successful surprise attack. After using the blood escape technique, Songwen's speed was much faster than that of the 5, ensuring his invincible position. This was his greatest confidence in ambushing the 5. As he approached the 5, the more than 20 black-bellied goo insects continued to crawl in and out of their bodies, devouring them. At this point, the essence, blood, marrow, and spiritual energy in the bodies of the 5 were nearly depleted. It was unclear how such small insects managed to swallow these things. With a shake of his head, Songwen had originally planned to absorb the essence and blood of these 5, but now it seemed their bodies were no longer worth consuming. However, since the 5 had just died and their souls hadn't yet left, this was a prime material for cultivating the forbidden soul technique, which couldn't be wasted. After spending dozens of breaths, Songwen devoured the souls of the 5, along with the essence and blood from Yanfeng's body, then stored the 6 bodies in his storage pouch. Turning around, Songwen flew towards the direction of the corpse demon sect. Before long, a large river blocked Songwen's path. The river's surface was extremely wide, several miles across. Looking ahead, its edges were indiscernible, with only the rolling yellow river water visible. Seeing this river, Songwen knew he was on the right path back to his sect, as crossing this river was necessary. Looking up at the sky, the sun had already set and the surroundings were becoming dim. The nearby forests were faintly discernible. Songwen took out a flying talisman, activated it, and soared across to the other side of the river. As he flew towards the center of the river, he dropped the 6 bodies into the water. Soon, the bodies were swept away by the waves and disappeared beneath the riverbed. Just before the flying talisman lost its effect, Songwen found a crevice in a cliff and hid himself within. He didn't intend to travel at night. Besides reduced visibility, traveling through this unfamiliar dense forest at night could lead to unforeseen risks. Furthermore, having just escaped, his spiritual power was running low and needed time to recuperate through meditation. Chapter 66. The night passed without incident. This night, Songwen refined 3 chi-replenishing pills, replenishing his spiritual power substantially. As dawn broke, Songwen emerged from the crevice in the cliff. After climbing to the mountaintop, he hurried towards the direction of the corpse demon sect. The dense forest was filled with trees and dense undergrowth, intertwined with countless vines. Without using any talismans, relying solely on his physical strength to traverse the path, Songwen's speed was not particularly fast. He had been on the road for over 2 hours, covering more than 300 li of mountainous terrain. While running, Songwen suddenly sensed a figure appearing overhead. He swept out with his spiritual power and was surprised to find that the person was someone he knew. It was Ghost 3. Ghost 3 was in a very bad state. When Songwen noticed him, Ghost 3 plummeted directly from high altitude, crashing down about 10 meters in front of Songwen. Ghost 3 broke several large trees and rolled over 10 meters on the ground before being stopped by a tree trunk. Blood gushed continuously from his mouth, mixed with many fragments of internal organs. Ghost 3 also noticed Songwen, but he didn't recognize Songwen's identity. Songwen's strength was too weak. During yesterday's battle with the Yen family, Ghost 3 had never paid attention to him. "Fellow Taoist, save me. I will give you ample rewards." Ghost 3 seemed to muster his last bit of strength to say these words, then fainted motionless on the ground. The sudden turn of events startled Songwen. He immediately swept the surroundings with his spiritual power but found no one else, which eased his mind slightly. However, he did not let his guard down nor approach Ghost 3 rashly. He activated a swift talisman, then used the blood escape technique. His entire body surged with blood energy, and his speed increased several times. Slashing through the dense forest, he disappeared without a trace. As for the benefits promised by Ghost 3, it was out of the question. Songwen felt that if he really went to rescue Ghost 3, once Ghost 3 recovered from his injuries, Songwen would probably be the first one he would kill. Ghost 3, as a robber cultivator, relied on plundering and pillaging other cultivators for cultivation resources. Wanting to show kindness to Ghost 3 and gain benefits was probably wishful thinking. As for killing Ghost 3 and plundering the resources on his body, for a moment Songwen also had such thoughts, but he quickly dismissed them. Ghost 3, a cultivator who often walked the line between life and death, even though he looked on the verge of death now, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Who knew if he had any tricks up his sleeve? What if he was pretending to be unconscious? If Songwen approached him, it was very likely that he would end up dead himself. Seeing Songwen decisively turn and leave, Ghost 3, lying on the ground, twitched his mouth slightly. He had been chased and intercepted by experts from the Yen family. Finally escaping, he was heavily injured. Moreover, the Yen family's techniques were venomous, and he was deeply poisoned. The medicinal herbs for healing and detoxification were also exhausted. He originally thought he was doomed this time, but when he exhausted the last trace of spiritual power in his body and was flying his boat through the mortal forest, he suddenly saw a cultivator rushing by. He pinned his hopes of survival on this cultivator, so He put away his flying boat and tried to land. But at this moment, the toxins he had been suppressing suddenly erupted. This caused him to lose control of his body and fall directly from midair. Initially, he had wanted to play a trick on that early chi-cultivating cultivator. But unexpectedly, the cultivator fled immediately. You really are cautious, don't you want any opportunities? A heavily injured and dying cultivator falls before you, yet you're unmoved. Ghost 3 thought bitterly, then loosened the grip on his talisman. His consciousness became increasingly blurred, and then he completely fainted away. 2 hours later, after searching everywhere for the trace of Ghost 3. The Yen family's cultivators finally found this place. Yen Gao's figure landed first, seeing Ghost 3 who was already on the brink of death. A cruel smile crept onto Yen Gao's lips. You dared to oppose my Yen family, how could I let you die so easily? Someone administer the detoxification medicine to him, then pierce the soul field and bring him back to the clan. I want to extract his soul and refine a soul lamp so that his soul will endure the burning flames for eternity. This is the fate for those who dare to offend the Yen family. Following behind Yen Gao were 3 other cultivators who began to carry out the orders. At this moment, Yen Gao was in a good mood. Another escaping robber cultivator had already been killed by another team from the Yen family. Now that Ghost 3 was also in his hands, it meant that all the robber cultivators who had attacked the Yen family this time had been completely wiped out. However, it was heard that the disciple of the corpse demon sect, Ji-in, who was supposed to be here to take stock, was nowhere to be found, which was a major hidden danger, but a chi-refining third-layer minor cultivator shouldn't stir up much trouble. Sooner or later, the Yen family's people would find him. And there was absolutely no chance he would return to the corpse demon sect alive. A Yen family woman who was currently binding Ghost 3 glanced around the trees and grasses and said to Yen Gao, third uncle, there seem to be traces of other people's activities around here. Yen Gao, muscular and not very observant, looked puzzled and asked, Xiao Qiu, what do you mean? The woman called Xiao Qiu was named Yen Qiu, known in the Yen family for her meticulous thinking. She pointed in several directions, although Ghost 3 had crashed from midair, causing a mess around the grass and trees. With a little careful observation, it was not difficult to find traces of someone else's activity here. Third uncle, look at these places. There are traces of someone's activity here. The grass has been trampled. Yen Gao followed Yen Qiu's finger and looked for a while without understanding. However, he knew his own situation well. His body refining talent was good, but his brain wasn't particularly sharp since Yen Qiu said there were traces of someone's activity. It shouldn't be aimless. What's going on? Could it be Ghost 3's accomplice? Yen Gao asked. Yen Qiu shook her head and said, I don't know about that, but if it really is Ghost 3's accomplice, there's no reason to leave Ghost 3 unattended here. Even if they couldn't take Ghost 3 away, they should have given Ghost 3 a clean end. Just then, a figure hurriedly descended from midair. I've seen third uncle. The newcomer clasped his fists and greeted Yen Gao with such haste. What's the matter? Yen Gao asked. Yen Feng and the other 5 were ordered to chase Ji-in, but they haven't returned. Recently, a clan member found traces of a battle. After careful investigation, the clan believes that Yen Feng and the others have been killed, and Ji-in might have escaped. Ji-in escaped? Yen Gao was somewhat incredulous, and he killed Yen Feng and the others. How did Ji-in manage to do that? Yen Qiu also wore a look of disbelief. After a brief shock, she said, Third uncle, could these traces be left by Ji-in? This place is exactly on the way to the corpse demon sect. End of the chapter. Chapter 67. It's impossible. This place is over 1,000 miles away from the poison miasma swamp. Ji-in is only at the chi refining third layer. How could he cross such a distance in just one day? Yen Gao immediately denied. Yen Qiu also found it somewhat unbelievable. However, upon further thought, with Yen Feng and his men, who were chasing Ji-in, all dead, Ji-in must have hidden his true cultivation level. If Ji-in had the cultivation level of the mid-chi refining stage and used speeding talismans, it would be reasonable to travel 1,000 miles in a day. Yen Qiu voiced her speculation. After hearing this, Yen Gao said, What you say is not impossible, so what should we do? Yen Qiu replied, As for the plan, you and I will continue to pursue Ji-in. The others will take Ghost 3 back to the clan and bring news of Ji-in's escape. In case we fail to catch Ji-in, the clan needs a contingency plan. Yen Gao, robust but simple-minded, couldn't offer a better suggestion. He nodded in agreement. All right, let's do that. He waved his hand and took out a flying boat, saying, Xiao Qiu, come aboard. We will chase Ji-in on this flying boat. The two of them boarded the flying boat and headed towards the direction of the corpse demon sect. Meanwhile, the others escorted Ghost 3, also on a flying boat, returning to the Yen family's headquarters. After distancing himself from Ghost 3, Song Yi didn't dare to slack off and maintained full speed on his journey. He knew that since he had accidentally encountered Ghost 3, the Yen family could catch up with him at any time. Now was not the time to relax, so he pushed his speed to the limit, using the speed talisman and his blood escape technique to travel at full speed. As the sun gradually set, a small city appeared ahead of Song. This city was named City of Three Corpses, under the jurisdiction of the Corpse Demon Sect. The City of Three Corpses was rich in mysterious iron ore, and almost all the ordinary people in the city were slaves of the Corpse Demon Sect, generations enslaved to mine mysterious iron ore, with no hope of ever escaping. To ensure the perpetual servitude of these mining slaves, the Corpse Demon Sect even bred a specific type of people. Tall men were selected naturally, while female slaves were subjected to violation, forced to bear offspring. For these mining slaves, suffering was endless, whether in life or in death. After their deaths, their bodies would also be fully utilized. Although they endured endless suffering and could barely produce any essence blood, they could be used in the Great Corpse Refinement Formation to refine corpse chi, aiding the cultivation of the disciples of the Corpse Demon Sect. In other words, Song Yi himself was tainted by the fruits of these mining slaves. For his cultivation of the blood-refining art of the Corpse King, the need for corpse chi was far greater than that of ordinary disciples. Much of this corpse chi came from the vertical wells in the caves. Their souls would also be drawn out and refined into various sinister artifacts. Song Yi planned to stay overnight in the City of Three Corpses. The reason he didn't travel at night was that he knew the Yen family would mobilize all their forces to find him that night. Traveling at night would increase the risk of exposure. With few cultivators on the road, the City of Three Corpses was only 200 miles away from the Corpse Demon Sect. With a large number of Corpse Demon Sect disciples and wandering cultivators traveling between the two places, therefore, there were large flying ships traveling between the two places. Song Yi planned to return to the Corpse Demon Sect by flying ship tomorrow. With only one Foundation Establishment stage cultivator in the Yen family, their influence was not enough to affect the large commercial ships belonging to the Corpse Demon Sect from afar. Song Wen could see the gates of the City of Three Corpses. There were not only city guards but also several Yen family cultivators. His eyebrows jumped involuntarily, suspecting that his whereabouts might have been exposed. He then glanced at his chest, where he carried 6 storage bags taken from Yen Feng and his companions. In the cultivation world, cultivators can fragment their spiritual power and attach it to disciples or items, forming spiritual imprints. Cultivators can perceive the approximate location of disciples through these spiritual imprints. However, Song Wen dared to carry 6 storage bags with him, indicating he had come prepared. The spiritual power of Qi refining cultivators, and even Foundation Establishment cultivators, is a manifestation of soul strength. Any form of soul strength would be devoured by Song Wen's physical body and become nourishment for his spiritual si. When Song Wen first heard about spiritual imprints, he had this suspicion. To confirm his suspicion, he tested it with Chun Yi and senior brother Su without exception. He easily devoured the spiritual imprints left on the items by them. When Song Wen grasped items with their spiritual imprints, he could clearly perceive that their spiritual power had been swallowed by him later. He also confirmed with the two that they indeed lost their sensitivity to the items. He tested with Chen Yi because they were familiar and easy to approach. He tested with senior brother Su because his strength surpassed his own. These 2 tests, one strong and one weak, fully proved that his speculation was correct. After calming his mind and trusting in the golden finger, Song Wen dismissed his chaotic thoughts. The Yen family cultivators appearing at the City of Three Corpses probably discovered traces of Yen Feng and his companions' deaths, roughly deducing my speed, which led them to thoroughly investigate the City of Three Corpses. Before entering the city, Song Wen controlled his breath through his physical body. He fully displayed only cultivation level of Qi refining 4th layer and concealed all traces of corpse Qi. Then, using the Mortal Realms disguise technique, he changed his appearance to that of a middle-aged cultivator. In this way, not only did Song Wen change his appearance, but his aura was completely concealed. Even Guotao, who had been with him for many days, would find it difficult to recognize him. Song Wen did not show his outer sect disciple token of the Corpse Demon Sect to enter the city. It was apparent that the upper echelons of the City of Three Corpses had been infiltrated by the Yen family. showing the token would only expose his identity, identifying himself as a wandering cultivator. Song paid a spirit stone and smoothly entered the city of three corpses. There were many people coming and going in the city of three corpses, with quite a few cultivators and ordinary people. Among them, most of these ordinary people were nearly naked, emaciated, and looked like mining slaves oppressed by the corpse demon sect for generations. However, not all ordinary people were poor. Among them were also those well-dressed, healthy-looking individuals in any era. There are always those among humans who betray their own kind to gain personal benefits. These well-dressed ordinary people belong to this category. They assisted in tyranny, helping the corpse demon sect oppress ordinary people, bowing and obeying cultivators, and treating mining slaves as mere pigs and dogs. Song watched all this impassively, neither angry nor pitying. He walked directly into a cultivator's inn, paying a moderate fee of 1 spirit stone. He requested a higher-priced room and settled in. End of the chapter. Chapter 68. A night passed quietly. The next day, leaving the inn, Song headed straight for where the airships were docked last night. He had already asked the inn's servant and confirmed that the airship bound for the corpse demon sect would depart at the third quarter of the morning hour. Walking within the city of three corpses, Song noticed many Yen family disciples using their spiritual power to repeatedly scan passing cultivators. In the cultivation world, casually scanning others with spiritual power was seen as provocative and a highly disrespectful act. After all, which cultivator didn't have a few secrets they didn't want others to pry into? The brazen behavior of the Yen family disciples provoked considerable anger among many cultivators. However, seeing the guards of the city of three corpses standing beside these Yen family disciples, these cultivators dared not voice their anger. Song remained calm and continued towards the direction of the airships, paying no attention to the spiritual scans cast by Yen family disciples. These were already the sixth wave of Yen family members he had encountered since this morning. He had absolute confidence in his ability to control his body's aura. These Yen family disciples could not possibly recognize him solely based on spiritual scans, especially since his aura had already been completely concealed. To find Song, someone who had previous contact with him would need to come forward and expose his disguise, which was highly unlikely. There were too many cultivators coming and going in the city, and Yen family disciples couldn't possibly search them all. Moreover, such actions would only provoke greater resentment among the cultivators. It might even lead to a riot among the city guards, making trouble for the city lord of three corpses. Song smoothly arrived at the location where he would board the airship. The airship was 10 meters long with 3 levels of construction. Since the corpse demon sect wasn't far from the city of three corpses, most of the cultivators boarding the airship were at the chi refining initial stage, with occasionally a few at the chi refining intermediate stage. After all, cultivators with slightly stronger abilities preferred to travel to the corpse demon sect on their own. On the road about 100 meters from the airship, several Yen family disciples were stationed, including Yen Gao and Yen Qiu. Their eyes and spiritual power scanned the low-level cultivators boarding the airship repeatedly. When they found suspicious individuals, they immediately searched them, acting desperate and extremely aggressive. At this moment, Song aura and appearance changed once again. Since leaving the inn, he had disguised himself as a young wandering cultivator who had just entered the chi refining stage. Due to the deaths of Yen Feng and the others, the Yen family suspected anyone at the chi refining intermediate stage. Therefore, they paid little attention to Song, this young cultivator who had just reached the chi refining first stage. After paying 5 spirit stones, Song smoothly boarded the airship and secured an independent small room on the lower deck. The airship departed punctually at the third quarter of the morning hour. The speed of the large airship wasn't fast, and after an hour, it arrived at the Corpse Demon Mountain Market, the same market Song frequented. This place was already within the jurisdiction of the Corpse Demon sect, and Yen family's strength was insufficient to extend their hands here. After disembarking from the airship, Song didn't spot any Yen family members in the market, which reassured him. He headed straight for the Pill Refining Hall. Eldershin of the Pill Refining Hall was a foundation establishment late-stage alchemist known for his status, strength, and wealth within the Corpse Demon sect. It was highly unlikely that he could be bribed by the Yen family. Yen family has betrayed the Corpse Demon sect, colluding with the Nine Palace sect, stealing the rainbow grass, reporting this matter to Eldershin. The next step will be to wait for the Yen family's downfall. Only when the Yen family is completely destroyed can the threat from them be truly eliminated. Song wasted no time. He ran all the way and soon arrived at the northwest foot of the mountain, where the pill refining hall was located. The pill refining hall was still heavily patrolled by disciples to prevent unruly elements from infiltrating. As the gate of the pill refining hall came into view, Songwon removed his disguise and his aura changed to a familiar appearance to everyone. To enter the pill refining hall, he needed both the disciple token and the mission token, both of which retained his aura. If he displayed an aura inconsistent with the tokens, he would not be allowed entry and might even be mistaken for a spy. As Songwon walked through the gate of the pill refining hall, someone unexpected appeared before him. Guotao. Guotao stood quietly at the gate. Neither entering nor leaving, Songwon knew that Guotao was waiting for him. Instantly, Songwon tensed up. He reminded himself to be extremely careful. He had traversed over 2,000 li of escape routes and couldn't afford to stumble at this final step. He remembered clearly that according to the sect rules, killing an outer disciple required only compensation of 3,000 spirit stones at this critical moment. If someone told Guotao that only 3,000 spirit stones were needed to eliminate Songwon, the significant threat, Songwon believed Guotao would certainly not hesitate to pay up. The ghost head shield was gripped in his right hand, ready to strike. The last flying escape talisman was affixed to his chest, ready to activate at any moment to create distance from Guotao. Both blood sacrifice art and blood escape art were also prepared for immediate activation. Songwon believed that by simultaneously using these two blood-burning secret techniques, his speed should be comparable to that of a cultivator at the 7th layer of Qi refining like Guotao. TL note: I have no idea what is going on with these cultivation realms. Please bear with it and I will try my best to keep them consistent later on. Unfortunately, the haste talisman had already been used up, otherwise his chances of escape would be even greater. The thunder talisman wasn't quite suitable for use within the corpse demon sect, otherwise he would have a hard time explaining why a disciple of the demonic sect could cultivate the righteous Qi of heaven and earth. If used recklessly, it could likely expose his secret. By then, he might be subjected to soul extraction and research by the corpse demon sect's elders. At the same time, Songwon had prepared himself. If Guotao dared to make a move, he would publicly shout out the Yen family's secrets, breaking the net when the fish is desperate. With so many guards outside the pill refining hall, as long as he could withstand 1 or 2 moves from Guotao, he should be able to be rescued by the guards. Looking at the extremely tense Songwon, Guotao did not choose to act. Instead, he smiled slightly, making an effort to appear friendly. At this moment, although Guotao could kill Songwon, the elders of the corpse demon sect were not fools. Both Guotao and Songwon were sent out to carry out sect missions, and they returned separately before reporting on the mission. If Guotao killed Songwon, even a fool would know something was amiss. The high-level members of the corpse demon sect would definitely thoroughly investigate the Yen family. By then, the Yen family's betrayal and secrets would definitely be exposed. Guotao and the high-level Yen family members had long discussed countermeasures. If Songwon really returned alive to the sect, Guotao would have to find a way to bribe him to buy enough time for the Yen family. At that time, the Yen family wouldn't bet everything on buying off Songwon. They had already secretly transferred the most talented disciples within the clan, ensuring the preservation of the Yen family's bloodline. This included Yen Yiwen, the most talented member of the Yen family in this generation. End of the chapter. Chapter 69. Watching Songwon, who was tense and ready to erupt at any moment, the many guards outside the pill refining hall were somewhat bewildered. What's happening today? A Qi refining stage 3 outer disciple dares to act so presumptuously outside the hall? Are all the new disciples this courageous now? Do they really think the elite guards of our hall are non-existent? However, seeing Songwen's vigilant gaze fixed on Guotao, stepping back slowly, the guards quickly realized that this outer disciple was on guard against Guotao. Since it's not directed at the hall, it has nothing to do with them. The guards immediately. The guards adopted a look of anticipation, their eyes shifting back and forth between Guotao and Songwen. Their expressions seemed to say, "Why hasn't someone made a move yet?" Guotao also noticed Songwen's tension and the guard's amusement. He smiled awkwardly and spoke in as gentle a tone as possible. "Senior brother Ji-in, don't be nervous. I mean no harm. Rest assured, I won't lay a hand on you." Songwen, sensing the goodwill from Guotao, relaxed slightly but continued to step back cautiously. "The main hall is protected by formation restrictions. Shall we talk somewhere else?" Guotao continued. Songwen was aware of the formation restrictions in the main hall. Within the hall, cultivators below the golden core stage would be significantly weakened, unable to mobilize their internal energy, use any spells, talismans, or artifacts. and their physical strength would barely exceed that of a slightly healthier mortal. Song pondered for a moment before speaking. All right, I'll go along with Senior Brother Gua's suggestion, but you'll have to enter the hall first before I do. All right, Junior Brother, please follow me. After Guatao finished speaking, he showed his disciple token and mission token to the guards, smoothly entering the territory of the pill refining hall. The area of the pill refining hall was vast. Song stood at the gate, and only after seeing Guatao truly enter the main hall did he show his own mission token and disciple token to the guards. He said to the guards, Senior Brother, I am outer disciple Jian. Previously, under the orders of Elder Shen, I went to the Posian miasma swamp of the Yen family to inventory the rainbow grass. Please inform him that Jian has completed the mission and has come to report. After speaking, Song also headed towards the main hall. There were quite a few people in the main hall, including disciples of the pill refining hall and those who came to purchase pills. Guatao stood alone in a corner, anxiously awaiting Song. When he saw Song step into the hall, Guatao's anxious expression finally relaxed somewhat. He knew that now all his hopes were pinned on Song. Undoubtedly a huge gamble, but the current situation was such that the entire Yen family was like a fish on the chopping block, ready to be slaughtered, with no other options left. Junior Brother Jian, what Ghost 3 said is all nonsense. You must not believe Ghost 3's lies. The Yen family is loyal to the sect and would never betray it. Guatao's voice was low, audible only to the two of them. Song raised an eyebrow, a smile playing on his lips. Oh, is that so? It doesn't seem like it to me. I think what Ghost 3 said is the truth. Once inside the main hall, Song immediately felt a thick pressure descend upon him, causing the flow of his internal energy to stagnate. He tried to activate the blood refinement of the Corpse King technique, only to find no response. He was certain now that within this hall, he couldn't use any cultivation techniques. Thus, he no longer needed to fear Guatao. Seeing Song's calm expression, Guatao felt somewhat disappointed. Realizing that the other party couldn't be easily deceived, he had to change his approach. Junior Brother, you should think this through. Offending the Yen family won't benefit you in any way. Song smiled faintly, showing no sign of being threatened by Guatao. Indeed, there are no benefits. On my way back to report to the sect, I was hunted down by 6 Yen family cultivators. Guatao's heart skipped a beat. Realizing the situation was dire, Yen Feng and the others had indeed died at Song's hands. These 6 were truly useless. 6 Qi refining stage mid-level cultivators couldn't even kill 1 Ji. Guatao panicked. Misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. They must have mistaken Junior Brother for an accomplice of Ghost 3. Besides, Junior Brother is unharmed now, isn't he? Please forgive the Yen family this time. Song chuckled. Forgive the Yen family? I dare not. If it weren't for a life-saving treasure on me, I might not have survived multiple attempts on my life. Guatao hesitated. Compensation. I can compensate on behalf of the Yen family for Junior Brother. How about 1,000 spirit stones? Junior Brother isn't satisfied? Then 3,000 spirit stones. What about 5,000 spirit stones? Seeing Song remain silent, Guatao continued to raise the offer himself. Song neither agreed nor disagreed, but instead looked at Guatao with interest and said, I'm curious, Senior Brother Gua, what's your relationship with the Yen family? Why are you so eager to do their bidding? Guatao smirked. How could I possibly have a relationship with the Yen family? I'm just mediating. Junior Brother and the Yen family's relationship is ambiguous. We all belong to the Corpse Demon sect. There's no need to turn against each other. He added 5,000 spirit stones. Junior Brother, are you still not satisfied? With this amount, I believe it's enough for Junior Brother to reach the pinnacle of Qi refining. Seeing the urgency to offer money, attempting to settle everything, Song casually remarked, if the sect finds out it's a capital offense, a mere 5,000 spirit stones. Songwen's implication was clear: more money. 10,000 spirit stones, no more, no less, Guatao decisively stated. Good, it's a deal. When will you give me the spirit stones? Songwen confirmed. Guatao took out a storage pouch and handed it to Songwen. Here are 1,000 spirit stones, the rest will be supplied to Junior Brother later. Songwon probed into the storage pouch with his spiritual sense, 1,000 spirit stones, neither more nor less. He calmly tucked the pouch into his embrace, just 1,000 spirit stones, senior brother Gua? Are you going back on your word? Gua Tao assured, junior brother, rest assured, I won't. You can't be sure, we demon cultivators, we have no credit to speak of. Gua Tao pulled out another storage pouch from himself. I still have 1,000 spirit stones here, junior brother, please take it. I truly have no more spirit stones on me. Any additional ones will have to be given to junior brother later. Songwon accepted the pouch again, his face now showing greed. His gaze scrutinized Gua Tao. Seeing Songwon's greedy expression, Gua Tao cursed inwardly but had no other choice. He gritted his teeth and conjured a small boat the size of a palm. Which was his flying vessel. I'll gift this flying vessel to junior brother. I've already erased the residual spiritual energy on it. Junior brother can rest assured to refine it. In that case, I'll accept it with gratitude, Songwon said, looking satisfied as he stowed the flying vessel into his storage pouch. Seeing Songwon finally showing satisfaction, Gua Tao eagerly asked, junior brother, about the matter with the Yen family? Songwon replied, this inventory mission of the rainbow grass was originally guided by senior brother Gua. Naturally, I'll defer to senior brother Gua's judgment in all matters. End of the chapter. Chapter 70. So be it, so be it. Gua Tao finally relaxed his tense heart a bit, but he was still worried that Songwon might change his mind at the last moment. He said to Songwon, junior brother, rest assured, I will make sure to reimburse you with the rest of the spirit stones afterwards. You say so, but can I really trust senior brother Gua? In the future, I'll need senior brother Gua to take care of me more. After all, as a junior entering the sect with low strength and no background, the path of cultivation is exceptionally difficult. It's exactly when senior brother Gua's broad experience and guidance are needed. Junior brother, rest assured, from now on you are my own younger brother. Whenever you encounter any difficulties, you can come to me. Then I'll thank senior brother Gua first. Why still senior brother? If junior brother doesn't mind, just call me big brother. From the moment I first saw junior brother, I had a feeling of meeting a long-lost kin. Big brother Gua. Younger brother. The two harboring sinister motives, mutually suspicious of each other, seemed like long-lost brothers reunited, almost bringing tears to their eyes. Gua Tao, Ji-in, after completing the sex mission. Why didn't you report back to my small courtyard but instead came to the Dan Hall? Elder Shen's voice suddenly echoed in the Dan Hall. Elder Shen, a Foundation establishment stage cultivator, although suppressed by the prohibitions in the Dan Hall, was still more imposing than Songwon and Gua Tao. He exuded the aura of a Foundation establishment cultivator. Seeing Elder Shen finally appear, before Gua Tao could speak, Songwon immediately bowed and said, Disciple Ji-in pays respects to Elder Shen. Reporting to Elder Shen, the Yen family betrayed the sect, colluded with the Nine Palaces sect, and stole the rainbow grass. Gua Tao colluded with the Yen family, providing cover for them and attempting to deceive me and deceive the sect. Ji-in, you. Gua Tao was shocked and incredulous. He pointed at Songwon's hand, trembling and unable to speak. Was this the same Ji-in who had just called him brother and almost sworn a blood oath with him? This Ji-in was young and hadn't even matured yet, but his thoughts were unexpectedly deep. He had just taken advantage of his trust, and in an instant he had betrayed him. Gua Tao, was also skilled in social interactions, adept at adapting to situations, and had smoothly integrated into these circles of the corpse demon sect. He had thought he could maneuver easily, unexpectedly. He was played in circles by a young man who hadn't even matured yet. However, the root of all this lay with the handle Yen family held over him. The other party was free to come and go, but he had no way out and could only trust the other party. With no way out, Gua Tao could only choose to gamble, gambling on the extremely slim chance that Songwon was a greedy person. However, Songwon's willingness to abandon the 8,000 spirit stones without hesitation was still unexpected to Gua Tao. This amount was enough to tempt a Foundation establishment cultivator. Ji-in, are your words true? Elder Shen's momentum suddenly changed, becoming sharp and murderous. The pressure from Elder Shen made Songwon somewhat uncomfortable, as if there were millions of invisible eyes staring at him, ready to tear him apart at any moment. Disciple's words are absolutely true. Elder can personally verify it. The Yen family embezzled and colluded with the Nine Palaces sect, stole the rainbow grass. Gua Tao colluded with the Yen family, helping them cover up the truth. After discovering the betrayal of the Yen family, they sent cultivators to chase me down. After experiencing great dangers, I was fortunate to escape and finally return to the sect. Elder Shun's gaze sharpened. Corpse energy surged around him, and his robes fluttered without wind, rustling. Guatao, what do you have to say about this? Even under the prohibitive pressure of the Dan Hall, his aura was still something a Foundation establishment cultivator couldn't withstand. The chilling aura pressed down on Guatao, making him feel like a mountain was bearing down on him. Breathing became difficult. His legs went weak, and he collapsed to the ground facing Elder Shun's terrifying presence. Guatao trembled in fear, stuttering in his speech. Elder Shun, please do not easily believe the accusations of Ji-in alone. He speaks without evidence, falsely accusing me and the Yen family. Elder Shun said coldly. Ji-in, are you slandering? Songwen replied, what disciple said is entirely true. Once Elder investigates, you will know, however. Since the Yen family has learned of their betrayal being exposed, they might attempt to flee secretly. Please hurry, Elder Shin. With a cold grunt, Elder Shin said, Humph, I don't need you to tell me how to do my job. In truth, Elder Shin already believed Songwen's words almost completely. Songwen was just a low-ranking outer disciple, falsely accusing a Foundation establishment family and inner-sect senior brother without any benefit. Moreover, throughout the ordeal, Songwen had displayed unwavering confidence. In contrast, Guatao was panicked and fearful. Comparing the two, it was clear who was lying. Guards, take Guatao to the prison hall. The prison hall was located underground at the foot of the Corpse Demon Mountain, a place where the sect detained traitors, enemies, and serious offenders. Once inside the prison hall, there was no possibility of leaving alive again. Endless inhuman torture awaited him. If lucky, after enduring countless tortures, one might beg for reincarnation. If unlucky, one would have their soul extracted and never transcend life. As soon as Elder Shun's words fell, several guards stepped forward, forcibly, broke Guatao's dantian, and took him away. No, Elder Shin, I beg you not to send me to the prison hall. Ji-in, your words are untrustworthy. You are not to leave until this matter is cleared. Guatao's voice grew fainter and finally disappeared. After Guatao was taken away, Elder Shin said, take Ji-in back to his cave dwelling. He is not to take a single step out until the investigation is complete. Having said that, Elder Shin quickly left the Dan Hall and headed for the main hall of the sect. Recently, the Yen family was the only family bold enough to betray the Corpse Demon sect. Elder Shin felt it necessary to make an example and give a warning to the families subordinate to the Corpse Demon sect. Songwen was taken back to his cave dwelling by someone. He did not feel averse to being confined. On the contrary, he felt it was not bad at all. After all, the Yen family had not yet been destroyed, and there was still danger. What if there were spies from the Yen family lurking within the Corpse Demon sect? It was like someone was providing him with free bodyguard services. Back in his cave dwelling, Songwen took stock of his gains and losses. This time, most of his talismans were depleted, but he had received 2,000 spirit stones from Guatao. He would soon be able to replenish his talismans with these spirit stones. The corpse puppets, which were not easy to refine, did not fare well in their first battle and were severely damaged. However, with some expenditure of spirit stones to buy materials, he would soon be able to repair them. The flying boat was an unexpected surprise that needed to be refined quickly for convenient travel in the future. In the storage bags of Yenfeng and others, there were over 2,000 spirit stones in total, nearly 100 commonly used talismans such as haste talismans, flying talismans, and fireball talismans, although the majority were cheap fireball talismans. End of the chapter.